Hello everyone. Today we are going to go over the ulna, which is one of the two bones that are found on the forearm, the other one being the radius. So the ulna is a long bone which is found on the medial aspect of the forearm, and it acts as a rotatory axis for the radius for movements such as pronation and supination, which are the two basic movements around the forearm. Now let's get into the surfaces and borders of the ulna. The ulna has three borders as well as three surfaces. So let's start with the anterior surface, which is obviously located on the anterior aspect of the ulna. Then we have the medial surface, located on the medial aspect. And we also have a posterior surface on the posterior aspect. In terms of borders, we have the anterior border. So you can appreciate here that the anterior surface was this one, but the anterior border is found a little bit on the medial aspect. I will still be called the anterior border. On the lateral aspect, you find interosseous border, which is basically the place of attachment for the interosseous membrane that you find around the forearm. And then posteriorly, you find the posterior border, and this is basically palpable throughout its entire course. It's a subcutaneous structure, so you can feel it on your forearm as well. So that would be all in terms of surfaces and borders. Now let's get into the major structures of the ulna. So we'll start with the proximal end. So as you know, each bone has some major parts to it, and this would be the proximal end for the ulna. You would also get the shaft, which is this entire green area, and then you would also get the head. So going back to the three major parts of the ulna, those are the head, the shaft, and the proximal end. Now let's see what we can find around the proximal end of the ulna. So let's start with the olecranon. So the olecranon is important for the insertion of the triceps brachii muscle, as well as for the attachment of the olecranohumeral and oblique ligaments. So you get three structures around the olecranon: the triceps brachii, the olecranohumeral ligament, and the oblique ligament. So it's very important structure. Moving on to the coronal process. So this is found on the ventral border of the trochlear notch, and it's basically for the attachment of the humerocoronoid and oblique ligaments. Let's move on now to the tuberosity of the ulna. Now this is very important for the insertion of a muscle which is called the brachialis. So this originates from the arm and it goes all the way down to attach to the tuberosity of the ulna. So it's a very important structure. Then we have the radial notch. The radial notch it's important because it gives the articular fossa for the head of the radius. So we can see it here. The radius, which is this bone over here, articulates at the radial notch. So you can see that the head of the radius articulates within that fossa, which allows basically the movement of supination and pronation to occur. So it's a very important structure, the radial notch. So going back, now let's have a look at the trochlear notch. So this is important because it's the articular cavity for the trochlea of the humerus. So it's the place where you normally tend to find the humeroulnar joint. It occurs between the trochlea of the humerus and the trochlear notch of the ulna. So it's very important when it comes to for articulation and the formation of joints. And then we also have the supinator crest, which is right here. And this is the origin for the supinator muscle, which is one of the muscles that is involved in the supination of the forearm. Moving on now to the shaft, the only thing that you'll be able to find around the shaft is the nutrient foramen, which is basically the place of entrance of vessels that basically supply the bone. Now moving on to the head. Around the head, you should be able to find the articular circumference, which is basically the point of it's the articular surface that you find in the distal radial ulnar joint, which is basically the joint between the radius and the ulna. So we have seen before that the ulna attaches to the radius around the elbow joint. But if we go a little bit further down, you can see that the radius again articulates with the ulna. And that normally happens around the articular circumference of the head. So if we go back to it, this will be the place. Okay, so again, the articular circumference is an articular surface for the distal radial ulnar joint. Okay, and then to finish this off, we have the ulna steloid process. So this is a palpable projection which is found on the medial aspect just below the wrist, which you can feel. And it's important for the attachment of the palmar ulnocarpal ligament and for the ulnar collateral ligament of the wrist joint. So it's very important for the attachment of different structures. So that would be all in terms of the structures, the landmarks, the surfaces and borders. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, do leave a like down below, comment if you guys didn't understand anything, if you want anything to be made clear. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.